Hi Scholars, Miss Malloy here, and I'm going to work through creating a line plot with you. First, I'm going to read the plot problem. Delilah stops under a silver maple tree and collects leaves. At home, she measures the width of the leaves to the nearest 1/4 inch and records the measurements as shown below. Use the data to draw a line plot. Then answer the following questions about your line plot. So here I see all of the data for my line plots. I've made myself a little sticky of all of the parts that need to be included in a line plot. I have the number line, I have X's that represent the data, the unit, which could be inches or centimeters, the title, and the key. So first thing I need to do is I need to take a look at my data and I need to find what the smallest and the greatest measurement is. So I rewrote my data over here so that I could mark it up and that it's not on the computer so that I could use it. So I'm gonna look through what I think the smallest and the largest number is. So the smallest I see right here. It's 5 1/2. There's nothing smaller. There's no 5 1/4 and there's no 5. So 5 1/2 is the smallest. Now I'm looking for 6. I see 6 1/4. I see 6 1/2. I see no 7s, but right here I see a 6 3/4. That's going to be my largest. Now that I've determined the smallest and my largest number, I know how I could create my scale. I need to think about the whole number that comes before 5 1/2, which is going to be 5. And the whole number that comes after 6 3/4, which is going to be 7. So I know I need to create my scale from 5 to 7. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put my whole numbers on the scale first. So I'm going to draw a nice, really, really big line down here. I'm going to give myself plenty of room on the page. I'm going to put a 5 over here. I'm going to put a 7 at the end. I know right in the middle of 5 and 7 is 6. So I'm going to put a 6 right there in the middle. Now that I have my whole numbers on the number line, we're measuring to the nearest 1/4 inch. So now I know I need to split my number line into fourths. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to split my wholes in half. So I'm going to split each of them in half. And just as we learned as working with a ruler, we're going to label these 5 1/2 and 6 1/2. Now that I have my halves down, I'm going to split each half in half to create my fourths. So I'm going to put a fourth, split each of those in half to create fourths. I'm going to label this now 5 1/4. I don't need to cross this out, 5 1/2, and put 5 2/4, because we know 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent. So I'm going to leave it as 5 1/2. I'm going to put 5 3/4. Now I'm going to come over to my between 6 and 7, and I'm going to, between 6 and 6 1/2, going to split it into fourths, and 6 1/2 to 7, split that. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. This is going to be 6 1/4, and this is going to be 6 3/4. Wonderful. Now that I have my scale, I'm going to plot my data using X's. So I'm going to go through, and I rewrote my data, so I could say 5 3/4. I'm going to put an X right here, and then I'm going to cross it out, because so I don't get confused. A 6, I'm going to put an X on the 6, and then cross it out. 6 1/4, put an X there, cross it out. Another 6, put it right there, cross it out. 5 3/4, cross it out. 6 1/2, cross it out. 6 1/4, cross it out. 5 1/2, cross it out. 5 3/4, 6, 6 1/4, another 6, another 6, 6 1/2, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6, another 6. Oh, that was a 6. I made a mistake. I'm going to cross that out. And there was a 6 3/4 was the last one. Okay, so now that I have my line plot all set up, I'm going to look what I need to put in next. I have my x's that represent the data. Now I need my unit. Right here it tells me that it's in inches, so I'm going to label inches right here on the bottom. Then it asks me for a title. My data is telling me a title right here. So I'm just going to write width of silver maple trees leaves. And that is my title. Next, I need my key. So I'm going to say 1x equals 1 leaf. All right, now that I have my whole line part marked up, I'm just going to check I have everything. I have my number line, I have my x's, I have my unit, I have my title, and I have my key. Okay, now that I have it set up, I'm ready to answer some of these questions. It says, the first one says, how many x's did you draw above 6 1/4? So I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 x's. Our answer for number 1 should be 5. What does each x represent on the line plot? Well, we just look right over here at our key. Each x equals 1 leaf. Okay, final question. At what number did you start your line plot and why? So we started our line plot at 5. We started it at 5 because 5 1/2 is the smallest number. And we always need to start our line plot with a whole number. 5 is the whole number that comes before 5 1/2. The end.